will be conducted by Honorable Vice-Chancellor at Sanjay Godawat University, Kolhapur, Maharashtra, Dr. Arun Patil, sir. We welcome to you, sir. Namaskar, sir. Santosh Rane, Mumbai.
Good afternoon, Santosh ji. How are you?
I am fine, sir.
Very good afternoon to all of you, and thank you very much. I was just listening some other, speakers. Very interesting discussion. I think we all higher education, educationalists. We are dealing in higher education. We all are now in a different phase. I think all of us are looking backward. What happened actually, what started in 2020, I would say early 2020, and I think some of us are we are surprised that we really finish this phase, I would say, and let's hope that there will be normal now. Whatever new normal doesn't matter, but there should be normal now. And there are so many other challenges in higher education which we will be anyway facing, such as growth, quality, lots of digital disruption and so on. But definitely all of us will learn one lesson, that remote learning, okay, which is extremely it was very challenging, but which is extremely important for all of us now, because that is the way forward, I would say, when we are thinking of how we are dealing with something like this situation, which I hope that again, which will not happen, in the future, or let us prepare, for something like this. While we are facing this particular challenge, I think exponential growth of higher education overall, and then we are dealing with these concerns. It is very important. We just imagine, one thing which is very interesting to me, that when we were, before COVID, when we were in the face-to-face mode, where we were planning lots of experiential learning, active learning. And there we were talking about flipped classrooms. Okay, if all of us we remember, there we were thinking that okay, it's enough. We should seriously think of sort of blended learning or even flipped learning, where let's do that. Let's flip our classrooms, and then we had to do that. Okay, it is not exactly flipped, but I would say that we had to completely think of something, blended plus flipped plus flexible plus online, all, we really mixed like, the vegetables. And I think, it went very well, I would say, for many organizations. The big challenge was, I think, for all of us was assessments. Okay, so, and when it comes to examination, which is not the only way to assess students. Assessments can be of different forms, but when we talk about formal to informal way of assessment, that was big challenge again. And while we do all these things, how can we really help students to enhance their employability skills, of course, look at their profiles and professionalism, and that was again, I think, big challenge. Okay, in case of engaged learning and teaching, for me, which is very important, we need to think, ask few questions to ourselves, that what kind of activities I will incorporate, or we will incorporate, we are incorporating in our teaching learning, where students can enjoy them, students which will help students learn. Okay, that is very, very important, because again, face-to-face versus blended versus flexible versus MOOC style and I would say flipped, very different. Also, when students are based remotely, how can we enhance or foster their intra-class communication? How, because they were missing last 2 years, most of the students or all of the students, they were missing that peer learning. That, and peer learning, peer instruction is one of the thing. Eric Mazur has done a lot of work from Harvard University for this, that peer instructions, and developed a completely new philosophy. So how we can foster intra-class communication, peer learning? Most importantly, teachers should think that what is the driver that students will join to my session. Okay, if it is an online session, what could be the important factor that students would think that, yes, I would like to join a session of this particular thing? And how will students demonstrate their learning, and how we can evaluate, again coming back to assessments? And for that, what evidence we gathered, because there were so much limited opportunities. I was just referring to online engagement framework, which was developed by Redmond et al. In 2018, just before 1 year prior to COVID, or a couple of years prior to COVID situation. And there were so many the component elements of that framework, which has social engagement, which is very important, cognitive engagement, unless students will not learn, behavioral engagement, collaborative engagement, and emotional engagement. So all these 5 elements or aspects of online engagement framework are very important. If you miss one of the elements, learning may not happen, or learning may happen, but it will not be full-fledged. Okay, so that is how we need to think, that when it comes to the online engagement, how these elements will be fulfilled. Now it is very important that within the challenging situation, how can we prepare our students for unknown future? Because we don't know, we didn't know even before COVID came that was happening. I would say that in terms of the very important question, how we can prepare students for Industry 4.0 and even beyond. Okay, we are talking about Industry 4.0, but we need to prepare students beyond that. And how can we do that while we are facing lots of digital disruption challenges? Okay, of course, students love to learn AI, students love to use mobiles for their learning, but is it fulfilling all the learning requirements? Is it fulfilling that? Okay. Very interestingly, we were collecting some data, and we found that the students, when they access online delivery or online class, the way of the variety of tools they use. Okay, it's not necessarily standard laptop or standard desktop. They prefer to use mobiles, they prefer to use tablets, they prefer to use many other tools. So are we ready for that, and can we have that resilience in order to do that? Okay, that was my question. Very importantly, nowadays it is one of the research papers says that 80 to 90% of the competencies which distinguish star leaders, and those are built on emotional intelligence. Okay, now how to again incorporate that emotional intelligence, and how to do that? Okay, in online engagement, we need to also consider those students who are metacognitive. They're more likely to succeed. Okay, and how can we do that? How we can identify them, and even how we can facilitate their learning. Okay, very important. As we all know that when it comes to hands-on, when we ask students to do something, they learn more. But again, remotely, how can we do that? Okay, so there may be lots of challenges in students learning, especially in remote learning, or especially in online learning, and we need to really ensure that learning happens, and not only that, it happens in an active way. So rather than passive learning, it is active learning. But for us, it is a big challenge to think, how can we do that? So the learning pyramid says that lectures, average retention rate is only 5%. whereas students teaching others, students peer learning, peer instructions, peer teaching, there are 80% average retention rate. So the pyramid is very clear. Rather than boring lectures, you should have readings, audio visuals, some demonstrations, discussion groups, practice by doing, and etc., where learning happens more. Now, 5 important levels of engagement, student engagement, which we can think when we consider of student engagement in remote learning. And I will leave it to individual teachers, individuals policymakers, individual dean academics to think how they can do the best in their own institution. So first level of engagement is persistence, sustained inquiry, self-direction, playfulness with content, and unprompted transfer of understanding. Very, very important. Okay, so when we say that unprompted transfer of understanding, when we say that persistence, how can we use all these key concepts in our online learning technology, our online learning methods? And for that, what technology we can use? Second important level is strategic compliance. So there should be clear effort, some creativity, focus on directions and tasks, completion in order to meet extrinsic standards for motivation. Because it is very important that we should motivate students, okay, in order to engage them. And unless we motivate, it will not happen. That's why I asked the question that why student should come and participate in your online session, or why students should join your learning event, I would say. Another level is ritual compliance, where minimal effort made only to mitigate consequences or other negative punishes. No creativity, genius, curiosity, or transfer of understanding. So very, very important. Fourth one is retreatism. Little to no effort, productivity or progress, no demonstrated inquiry, affection or interest in the content, collaborations, or tasks. So we really need to identify, which of these 5 levels. The fifth one is rebellion, zero demonstration of learning, outright disruption and defense. Defined. So all these 5 levels, we need to identify where we want our students to be, where those students are at present status, and how we can engage them more. So when it comes to, again, technology, when it comes to online tools, there are many things. My standard practice would be, when I was doing one of the foundation courses, one of the foundation units program, teaching for 5 campuses from one campus remotely. I used to take break every 15 minutes in my 1-hour class, and I used to apply different tools. So Kahoot, for example, right now we have Kahoot. We have MS board, whiteboard, where you can do many things. You can scribble, and you can make sure that students should have that feel that it's not completely remote. You can use small quizzes, okay, polls, for example. But it is very important to have 2 to 3 tools, teaching tools, and that to online engaged learning tools to be incorporated every time, every session, so that you will feel that students are with you. Okay, students should be there engaged throughout, right from first second of your session to the last session. Also, you can do your own feedback mechanism. You can have your excuse me, when you finish your own session, you can have your own polling, or some sort of feedback, online feedback tool, online feedback form, like we used to take in a face-to-face mode, so that you will know that what is missing. And one of the elements or one of the components of that feedback should be whether students were completely engaged, fully engaged, and what is required to, or what improvements are required in order to make them fully engaged. Okay, so it is challenging. I know this particular pandemic has taught us many things, taught students many things, because from students perspective also it is not easy, for them to come and attend the class, participate in class activities, participate in team activities. For example, projects, if there is a team project, there is a group project, they learn more. Okay, but when you ask them to learn remotely, there are slight challenges. It is not like they don't learn at all, but I think there are challenges, and we need to be very strategic. We need to be very, very careful how we do that. Okay, so I think within this short span of time, I can't explain, but we have done a lot. We have assessed, we have evaluated some of the concepts. We made some mandatory tools for individual facilitators to utilize in order to make sure that the class, the students were engaged. So I think we need to have important aspects of challenges, but I think this is the world, this is the real world, and we are facing this challenge. There is no way that we can run away from this. So thank you very much. Thank you FELA for including me in giving my thoughts, giving my ideas, and some of my I remember my past activities, I would say, past coordination. It was very I'm missing that in as a vice chancellor, of course. But I think, yes, we all need to face that. We all need to learn from each other. I think most importantly, we need to share best practices, because there are many best practices around the world. Okay, and we need to share those best practices so that we can't, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So that is my thinking. Thank you very much.